This tutorial is meant for people that already know how to crochet or amigurumi. So if you do not know yet, please check out my previous video and it'll teach you everything you need to know to carry on with this tutorial. For this tutorial, I will be using the Lily brand Sugars and Cream scented yarn in Fleur de Lavender, so it is lavender scented, and I have it in my good old handy plastic yarn holder so that my ball doesn't go rolling out everywhere. And it's this one, and it's a very pretty multicolor. For these projects, I really like using the multicolored because I think they come out cuter. Plus the pastel colors come out very sweet, like a baby stuffed animal. So a G6 4mm hook. We are going to be making these in pieces, and the first piece that we start with is the head. So that is the first part I will show you. Then I go on to finish the head with the ears, and then make the body and attach it, and then the limbs and attach it, and then the last is the tail. I will show you how to do both the bunny and the bear. So like always, we want to first start off with our first beginning knot, and then we want to chain 2, and in the first chain we want to do our starting with our 6s. So we'll do our 6 stitches. 6. And then we want to increase to 12. Next we want to insert our stitch marker, and then increase to 12 in the round form. So just carry on. Now we want to bring our stitch marker back in, and then increase to 18. So we'll do the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 all the way around until we get to 18. There's 18, so then we bring our stitch marker back in through, and then we increase to 24. So we do 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2 all the way around. So there's 24, and we bring back in our stitch marker like so. And now we don't increase at all, we just do 24 around one more time, so 1 stitch in each hole. And there's 24, and as you can see, since we didn't increase, it's now starting to form a cup, and what you want to do is poke that cup out towards you so that the yarn pieces are on the inside. And next we want to of course add in our stitch marker. It's very important to keep track. And then increase to 30. So we do 1, 1, 1, 2. So 3 ones, and then double in the next to increase to 30. So here is our 30, and then we want to add our stitch marker, and next we don't increase at all, we just do the 30 stitches, but we have to add the eyeballs. So for the eyes, we are going to do 11, add an eyeball, 7, add an eyeball, and then finish the rest. For the eyes, I just have some beads here. I'm going to use the last 2 of my purple ones that I have, and this is what they look like. When getting eyes for your amigurumis, you need to make sure that the holes are wide enough for your yarn to go through. the hole for this one is about 4 millimeters wide, so that's just a general, and then the size of the actual bead is about a centimeter, not exactly. So these are the eyes I'm going to be using, and to add the eyes, I decided to use just a plain old piece of wire folded in half. They have bead insert tools, but I think that just a little tiny piece of wire will work just as fine. And Jack's drinking in the background. My bunny is thirsty. Alright, I'll just do the 11 and show you what to do afterwards. Here we are, here's where we started, and here is the 11, and as you can see, the eyes will be about this far apart, and they'll be generally even to the front of your piece. So I'm going to zoom out a little. Our piece is now getting big enough that I need to widen out a little bit. So the next thing to do to add your eyes is just tug on the yarn that you're working on real quick, and then slip your little piece of wire to make a needle to go through the bead. So grab your bead and insert it through like this, and then take your needle back out and put your hook through and tighten the hook on to the bead like so, and then you just want to, this is going to be kind of wobbly and weird, you just want to put your hook back into the next hole and continue on crocheting. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 7. And then we just want to repeat it again. So pull up a little bit on your yarn, make a needle with your piece of wire bent in half. Grab your other eyeball, feed the yarn through it, take out your needle, insert your hook again, pull on the yarn, and then finish off the row. Next we're going to do 30 again, so no increasing, just normal stitch count. So it's 30 above the eye, 30 on the eye, and 30 below the eye. So I will get up into the eyeball and I will show you, because this is a really tricky part. Well, I just finished that stitch up next, and the next stitch is the eyeball. It is the yarn that is running through the eyeball. So you pretty much just stick your hook under the eye. So the yarn that makes up the eyelid is where you stick your hook through. And then what you can do is you can make a stitch here and then go to the next, or you can take your yarn and wrap it basically around the eyeball. It's really difficult, so give me a second. There. You take your yarn and wrap it around the eyeball like this. So you make your stitch kind of halfway on top. So like that. So half the stitch is on this side and your next stitch will be on this half of the eye. So you go in like this. And there it is. So we insert our hook through the eyelid hole, and when we pull our yarn back, we want to make sure, pretty much just pull it over like this, like like that. So it comes over to this side. You want to grab it and bring it over like that. And pull it taut. And finish it off. And it's halfway. Go to the next one. Pull it taut. And then like that. And then you can always just boop, push the eyeball back in, or make sure it is flat. And to double secure, when you have the eyeballs, they can pop out and bulge out like this, or they can bulge out the other way, making it look smaller. To secure this later, all you have to do is add some hot glue on the other side and they'll stay. Or, of course, you can always use safety eyes if that's what you truly want to do, but I like it this way. I think it's simple and easy. So then just continue on with the rest of your 30 stitches, and then I'll show you what to do next. Now we are done with that row and we inserted our stitch marker. We want to decrease from 30 to 24. So to increase to 30, we did 1, 2, 3, and then double. Well, this time we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then turn the next two into one stitch to decrease. So I will show you real quick. Because learning to decrease, I think, was the hardest part when I learned how to crochet. So I want to make sure that you guys know how to do it too. So there's 3, and then we take the next 2 stitches, this one, and we turn them into one stitch by grabbing the first and the first of these 2 stitches and turn them into one, like so. And then just do that around, do 3 and then decrease, 3, decrease, all the way around until you get 24. Here we are. We are now down to 24. So next we want to decrease to 18. So we do 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, all the way around. The next thing to do would be to decrease to 12, but before we do that, I just wanted to take out the seam marker, because now we know we have 2 more rows left and we don't really need to keep track of them as much. And you can see there's a tiny gap, but you know what? After a bit of wear, it goes away, as you can see. Just like that. So the next thing I want to do is, if you see this tail right here, this, I like to close up this hole even more. So what I do is I take a plastic needle. You can use a large metal needle if you wish, but I think the plastic doesn't really go, it goes in between the yarn threads instead of going through it. So since my tail is pretty short, I'm just going to push this through and then thread it. Should probably take my hook out real quick. But just want to thread the end and pull it through, and then tug tight so that this hole in the middle closes up, and then I'll go back in and just that way that the hole is secure and we don't see any gaps in our work. So I just do that as a little addition to all of my amigurumis. And the next thing we want to do is to start stuffing the head. You have polyfill, and also I have a few bit of yarn scraps that I can stick in there that I had saved previously. So since this yarn is kind of white, I don't really want to use my darker scraps. So I'm just pulling out my white scraps and sticking them in there. Just like this. And that way you can save more polyfill and it helps you recycle some of your old yarn. So we just kind of want to fill it a little bit because once we decrease to 12 we will stuff it completely. So now here we are with our decrease to 12, and all we have to do is finish stuffing it to make it a more substantial ball. We don't want it too soft, but we don't want it too hard. So there we are. It's nice and squishy. So now we just decrease to 6. So instead of stitching 1, each 2 we gather together to make 1 stitch. So there is our decrease to 6. So the next thing we want to do is create a long tail. So we just pretty much pull on this until we get a good 4 inches. Cut it, pull out the excess, and then we want to thread our plastic needle and close up all the stitches. So just go through each stitch and close up this hole. It really doesn't matter how messy it is because we will be covering it up with the body of the bunny, but still I like to close it up and make it all nice and neat looking. Then we want to insert our needle, and since this is multicolored yarn, we want to go towards a patch of the same color as our tail. So I'm going over to this blue side and pulling it through. And then there's another blue spot on this side, but I want to go diagonal from it. So we'll go over to this blue patch right here. And we just want to keep doing this until we're out of yarn. And this helps keep our knot in place. We definitely want to make sure though that it doesn't leave a pucker. So pull this back out. There we go. And then we can hide the end inside. So stick it out this way, put it in, feed it through, and then just pull. And there we are done with our head. So next thing we want to do is sew on the muzzle. I cut out a small little oval of white felt, and as you can customize the color of the yarn and the eyes, you can customize the muzzle and mouth whatever color you want it to be. For the original bunny I made, I did a cream colored muzzle with a pink stitched mouth to match the eyes. So for this bunny, I'm going to do a white muzzle instead of cream with a purple mouth to match the eyes. So you will need your tiny little oval, and I'm not really going to include a template for this because it is just a small little oval, and you can use whatever size you want it to be, honestly. I just cut it out freehand real quick. So you will need the color of thread that matches the muzzle, and then you will need the embroidery floss that matches the eyes. I went ahead and threaded my needle with about a foot of thread and double knotted it at the end. So to make the bunny smile, pretty much all we do is do a V and then create a triangle above it. So I hope I will be able to show you So there is our little bunny slash bear nose. So all we have to do is tie off on the back and then we'll stitch it onto the head. Here I have a smaller needle threaded up with 2 thread thickness of embroidery thread of the matching muzzle color, and I tucked in all my loose ends and trimmed them short, etc. And now what we need to do is to insert our needle in the back to hide the knot, to place it on top of our amigurumi. So I do directly in the middle of the eyes, but you can place it higher or lower if you'd like, but I think it works best right in the middle. And as you can tell from our pattern, the head has an extra row of 24 compared to the bottom, so that's how we tell the difference between the top and the bottom. Insert your needle and bring it back through the front like so and pull it out. So you pretty much are doing a running stitch on the surface of the amigurumi piece. To end the stitch, what I like to do is pull it through the back side like what we would do with our yarn, and then feed it through to the bottom and tie the knot off on the bottom because you won't see it there because we will attach our body around here and you won't see it. For the bunny ears, they are very simple and there's no real counted pattern to it. All I do is start off with the knot, then chain 2, then do 5 stitches in the first chain, then continue on the 5 pattern until you get to the length of ears you would like. So now we just leave a little tail, and then this tail we use to attach the ear to the head. So now we just want to make another ear. We have 2 ears now, and as you can see, when you make the ear, the bottom has a slight slope, so I just like to pick which side I like best and make the slopes go on the opposites of the head like so. So also note, please make your tail longer than this. I cut mine kind of short, but anyway, so you just want to thread your plastic needle and then attach the ear to the head by just sewing through it. And you want to go through each stitch and attach each of them separately to the head. Oops. When we get to the end where the ear is completely attached, we want to do the same thing that we did with the bottom and just weave it back in through. just like that. So for the bear ears, they are very simple. What you want to do, of course, is start off like we do every time, but this time we want to leave a longer tail in the beginning. Like, this is good. It can be shorter, but that's good enough. So then we do our chain 2, and in the first chain we do 5 in that hole. So 1, 2, and 5. And then we want to chain 1, and there's our chain, there's our 5th. We want to go into that last 5th one, and then add a stitch in each chain, or add a stitch in each hole. So we go back with the 5. So here's 2, and here is 3. 5th one is kind of hard to get at, but there it is. And there's 5. And then what we want to do, you see there's our ear. We want to pull a long tail. And then we take our plastic needle and thread the original tail through it. And then we want to weave it in between the stitches on the opposite side of our end tail so that it ends up on the end. So it looks like this. And this is our ear. And we position it where we want it, kind of arc it a little. And then with these 2 tails, we weave to attach the ear. And of course it is very helpful to have a pin to pin them in place once you find the good positioning you like them in. Be careful of the pins because they do poke through, and I just poked myself. And now that we have both strings on one side, we can just tie them off and they are attached. Of course, you can go back and forth to secure it even more, but I think it's secured enough for me personally, so just tie it off. And then we want to cut them short, but not too long and not too short. You'll see what I mean in a minute, but basically we're just going to feed the ends through the head. So they can't be too short that you can't put them through the eye of the needle, but they can't be too long that they will come out through the other side of the head. So there's one, and there's the other. So now they're hidden. And then just repeat the same thing for the other ear. Now that our head is done, it is time to start working on the body. So for the body, we are going to work in, not in the round, but in the round rows. So of course we start off as usual with our beginning knot and then chain 2 and do 6 in that one hole. And then instead of just doing double in each hole to increase to 12, we first want to slip stitch to join. Chain 1, and then we increase to 12. Next thing we want to do is to skip our original added stitch and then slip stitch to join the row and then add on another stitch like we did before and then increase to 18. We want to do the same thing we did before, and that is skip this tiny stitch, slip stitch to join, add an extra stitch, and then increase to 24. So here is our 24. So we're not going to increase anymore. However, we are going to start going up. So for this, we do a special technique, and well, of course, first we have to skip this stitch, slip stitch to join, and add one, of course. But now we're going to kind of make it go upwards. So what we do is instead of going through both stitches, we just go through the back stitch and do a single crochet in each one. And then it will make a kind of lip on it. And this will be the starting of the bottom of our bear and or bunny's butt. As you can see, it's starting to do that. So just go all the way around. As you can see, we've got a little cup forming, so it's pretty obvious to where the next row is going to end because it's got the lip on it now. But like always, skip that tiny stitch, slip stitch to join the two rows, and then add an extra one, and then we just do 24 all the way around. Now that we've got a good base going, the next thing we should start doing is to form the body shape. So for this, we're gonna start decreasing. So we want to take our 24 to 18, and of course we always end the row on a decrease or an increase, this time decrease, and then of course we still want to slip stitch to join and add a stitch, and then we want to just do 18 all the way around, so just a single stitch in each one. Now that this top hole is getting a little tighter, I want to make sure that my little hole in the bottom isn't open. And now we want to define the shape a little more by making it more cone shape, and we want to decrease to 12. So we'll do 1 decrease, 1 decrease, 1 decrease all the way around. So now that we've decreased to 12, we are almost finished. All we have to do are 3 more rows of 12. So there's our last stitch, and all we have to do is just combine the row, and we don't need to add another stitch because we're not making any more rows. So here is our body, and now we just want to create a super long tail. Here is our stuffing, and now we want to take back out our plastic needle and thread it with our tail. And then we want to figure out where we want to place our body. Usually you can kind of see there's a seam running down, and I like to put this seam in the back. But of course you can just go with whatever side you think is prettier if you use the multicolored yarn, and luckily the front is the prettier one. So we're going to do that, and we just position it, and I just hold it and stitch, but you can use some pins to hold it if you'd like. Here is where our tail is, so we want to go in the opposite direction. So instead of putting our needle in this way, I'm going to put it in this way, like so. And then as we did on the ears, we want to go through each set of stitches, and it's caught on the ear here, give me a second, and go around the head like so. Go through the next set of stitches. Oop. And then just continue doing this all the way around until the body is completely attached to the head. I just took the end and shoved it through its face. That sounds awful. And now I'm just pulling it through and ending the tail throughout the body to secure it, to make sure that the body is secured to the head. I'm just gonna, since this tail is super long and I don't want to like go all through the whole piece, I'm just gonna tug on it just a slight bit, cut it, and then tug back where I put it in, and it should now be successfully hidden within its body. So there's the beginning of our little bunny. Next we want to do its limbs. The limbs are pretty similar to the ears, they're just a little more complicated. So the ears I just did to whatever length I thought, and for the limbs I actually have a pattern for them. So of course we first start with our basic knot and then the chain 2, but like the ears we do 5 stitches in the first chain. Next we want to do 6 rows of 5. And for this, we don't need to mark off and do separate rows. We can just do it in the round. We just need to count 6 sets of 5 to make sure. So, and 5. So there's our 5 rows of 5, and as you can tell by my pinky, that's how long it is. So now what we need to do is do 2 more extra stitches. So not the whole row of 5, just 2 extra. So, oops, 1 and 2. Then we decrease once. So we go in here and grab this one, and then grab the next one, which is really hard because it's so tiny, but there we go. And we decrease once, and then we make a tail about a little more than the size of the arm, and there we are. So then what we want to do is thread our plastic needle and pick up that few stitches that we missed, like so, and then go back all the way through the piece, of course to whatever color is corresponding to your tail, and pull it through, pull it all the way through, and there is one arm. So here is the hand part, and where we started is the shoulder. So this is what it looks like. Make another one of these. Here's both arms. They go like this, and next we need to do the legs. So the legs are pretty similar to the arms, but we start with 7 instead of 5. Start with the normal slip knot and chain 2, and in the first one we do 7. Like what we did with the arm, we just want to go around and do 2 more rows of 7. We flip it inside out. So there is our starting of 7 and then 2 rows of 7. So next we want to decrease once. So that changed it from 7 to 6. So now we want to do 1 row of 6 all the way around. Next we want to decrease 1 more time. So we take our 6 and turn it into 5. And now we want to do 2 rows of 5. So do 1 in each and 1 in each twice. So now, like we finished off the arms, we want to add 2 stitches, and then we want to decrease once and finish off. And then pull a tail to finish it off. And we are done with the legs. So as a comparison, here is the arm and here's the leg. You can tell the leg is much bigger toward behind of it. So this is what they look together on the animal itself. So just make another one of these. So to attach the limbs, I always add buttons on the joints, and I think it makes it so cute. So normally for this one, I would be using purple buttons to match the eyes, but I didn't have the right size that I needed. So this time I'm going to be using white instead. I position them in the back where they kind of are closer together than they normally would be side by side. This would be the normal side by side, but I like to make them farther back. So then what I do is I thread my needle through the back of the arm, right to where we're going to put our button. Bring it back through, go through where we want our arm to be on the body, and pull the 2 close together like this, and then go back in through the arm. And now we add our button. So I like to do mine crisscross like an X instead of side by side, but that's all within personal taste, I think. So we go back in through the arm to secure the button, and then we basically just take turns going in through the body and then going in through the arm and the button. To finish off, I like to go back through the body and go to the back of the arm, kind of hidden underneath the armpit, and then tie off a little tiny knot. Cut it off and do the other arm, and then I'll show you how to position the legs. Pretty much just position them where the button starts. So right under and lined up with the bottom line. So pretty much right there, and then on the other side right there. So that's what they should look like. And to sew on the buttons, you do the same thing you did for the arms. Sometimes I even like to use my last stitch and go directly across through the entire body and all the way to the other leg, as you can see here. Like that. That way it secures this and I can continue on with the same piece of thread and not have to knot off. So here's our little guy. So the last thing to do is the tail right there. So I just pretty much make a pom-pom. It's really easy. This is what it looks like. So I just take some white. Since I used white on the muzzle and on the buttons, I figured white would be perfect for the tail as well, but I guess you could use purple or any other color that you think would go. So I just wrap yarn around my finger over and over and over and over and over again and make a pom-pom. And you don't want to make it too tight that you can't get your fingers out of it. That's pretty important. So I think that's enough. Now I want to take my needle just to be able to tie the knot. Wrap it around to tie the knot. And pull it through here. Like so. And tighten it. Like so. And then leave this tail long, because this is what we're going to use to attach the pom-pom. And then you take your scissors and cut it everywhere that there's a loop. I think I got them all. And then at this point we hold the tail. I'm going to keep this other tail too. And then we want to even out the pom-pom. So just shape it, make sure that they're all the same length. And this would be the point where you can also fluff it out. Separate the yarn strands to make it super fluffy. And there is our tail. So now we want to attach it, and like I've said before, you want to save these little bits because you can use it stuffing for your next amigurumi. Thread it through our plastic needle. And then thread it through the very edge, the middle of the legs, the back of the head, and thread it through the few stitches back here, right where the butt is. And then I like to go through the pom-pom and make sure the tail bits are out of the way. There we go. Pull that taut and then go back through these again. And then with this piece and this piece at the very back, I like to tie a knot. And then, of course, take your scissors and trim it down so it's the same length as the tail bits. And there it is. So for the tail for the bear, it is the same exact pattern as the ear. But this time you want to tie the two end pieces together. Kind of loosely. And then you want to attach the tail to the back of it, just like we did with the ear. And we want to tie it in a knot and cut these short and feed it back through the body to hide the end pieces, and that is it. That is our bear tail. Here is our finished bunny rabbit. And if this tail is too big for you, of course you can always trim it down. I think I might just a little. And there we are. There's our finished Amigurumi bunny. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and if you do make it and you put it in a craft update or whatever, please leave a video response below because I'd love to see your guys' creations. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will talk to you guys later.